When I was a kid, my dad taught me how to play chess. And he taught me on this exact chessboard that I still have and use to this day. Although these days the chessboard mostly works as a tray for my laptop and I play chess on my phone. But still, the point is I like chess and I've liked chess for a long time. Although as I grew up I got more into card games like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I liked playing them, but the part I always liked the best was picking your deck apart and rebuilding it from scratch, trying to think of all the strategies and synergies. And I always thought it would be cool to make a game similar to chess, but with these deck building aspects of the card games. When I then read the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga for the first time, I was shocked to find there are a few chapters in there where they actually play a game very similar to the ideas I was having. I thought it was cool, but I always thought it would be so impractical in real life. Like a deck of cards is so much easier to carry around than a bag of board game pieces. Also, there's really no place on a board game piece to store information about how it moves. So every player would need to memorize how every piece in the game moves, or you would still need to carry around a deck of cards with you with information about the pieces. Although none of that would be an issue if it was a video game. I've actually tried to make a video game like this 2 times in the past. The first was when I first started programming in high school, but I had no idea what I was doing back then, so the project was pretty much doomed from the start. The second time was right after I got my software engineering degree. At that time I was too confident in myself, and I tried to remake it as a 3D online multiplayer game with a built-in editor for pieces, and yeah, that went about as well as you'd expect. So that takes us to now. I've matured a bit as a developer and I've released my first game already, so I think I have a bit of a better understanding of what a reasonable scope looks like. I'm making it a 2D single player game this time, and I'm using the Godot game engine to build it. I've also decided to focus on the most critical features first, to avoid spending time on less important stuff early, only to fail later on. So there are 3 key features that I will base the go-no-go decision for this entire project on. Making a system for creating custom pieces, creating an NPC opponent, and building a good interface for explaining how the pieces move. For the custom pieces, I built an interface with a few methods that every piece must implement. Update available targets refreshes the information about which tiles are targeted by which pieces. This information is later checked to validate moves. Checkboard post move is where the king prevents friendly moves that would put it in check. It's also where the pawn checks if it's reached the other side of the board and can be promoted. Check is defeat is where the king handles checkmate. And there are also a few interface related methods like get pretty name and stuff like that. For the visuals of the pieces, I started by sketching a few ideas on my tablet, in order to rough out a general art style to aim for. I then took the designs I liked best and imported them in Inkscape on my computer and tidied them up a bit. I also separated the layers so that I could export them separately and tweak the colors for each piece in-game in order to give each player a distinct color. After that, I created all the normal chess pieces and my first custom piece, and made sure it worked, and I was able to tick off the first item on my key feature list. For the NPC opponent, I started by implementing the Minimax algorithm using alpha-beta pruning. This sounds complicated, but it's basically the standard for chess bots, so there's tons of resources online. I mostly copied snippets of code here and there from different places online, and I made sure it worked with my custom pieces. Implementing the algorithm was fine, but I quickly ran into problems because my naive object-oriented approach made the AI painfully slow. To improve this, I researched something called bitboards. It's where you utilize the fact that a chessboard has 64 tiles and an integer has 64 bits. Basically, it means we can store information about where each piece of a certain type is on the board in a single integer, which in turn means we can use bit masks and bitwise operations to move stuff around and to validate pieces on the board. and this is something the computer is really good at doing very fast. I got it to a point where the performance of the opponent, both in terms of how good it is at playing chess and how fast it is at coming up with moves to make, is acceptable. I won't cancel the project due to this, I think it's perfectly fine, but I hope to improve it even further in the future. Finally, I wanted to create an interface for explaining to the player how each piece moves. I made a few mockups with the normal chess pieces and I posted them to r/chess on Reddit. I got a lot of feedback, but in general it seemed like I was on the right track. So I fixed all the feedback I got and I took the final mockups and I made a design system from it, with rules for how to draw the components of any possible chess move. I then took this design system and I implemented it in Godot using the draw function. This way I'm able to explain each move using code, and the engine is able to draw it on screen. This way the explanations for all moves are consistent, and I'm also able to tweak the visuals, how the moves are drawn, without having to re-export a manual image for every move. I just tweak the code that explains it and the render function updates the visuals. So with that, I ticked off the final feature needed to convince myself that I can finally finish this project. I've also made it quite a bit further right now than I've ever made it with this idea in the past. Next, I will work more on improving the visuals of the game and also add audio. I'm hoping to put a very early prototype on itch sometime soon to get some feedback on the actual gameplay as well. But that's it for now. If you have any feedback, please let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for more updates and have a nice day. Peace.